You mentioned a little while ago a lack of support for third-party candidates and elected officials. Why do you think that third parties have had so much trouble gaining traction with voters? And the second part is, what would you say to voters to convince them that they're not wasting a vote by casting it for a third-party candidate?
Thank you for that question. I think a lot of it has to do with the barriers put in place by the Democrats and the Republicans in the legislation. As you may know, we have a public financing option for campaigns, and the barriers placed on third-party and minor party candidates are non-existent for the other two parties. So that limits our ability to get out our message, and I do appreciate media sources like The Day who reach out to third-party candidates and in trying to include us. However, that is not always the case. And while we try to grow as much as we can, especially the Green Party, in our local communities, which I have to say the Waterford Green Party being but, I believe, 5 years old, we've had great traction. We have an elected official on a zoning board, and it's slowly coming to the forefront that American politics, both on the national, state, and local levels, need more choices and more ideas out there. I believe it's close to 70% of the American population wants to see a third-party candidate or a third option up there along with the two other presidential candidates. So as for the second part of your question, why is it not a wasted vote? Why is it not throwing away your vote? And the answer is because it's a slow process. If you believe that you are helping to elect somebody who represents your values, because that is our civic duty, is to represent someone who we can stand for, not stand against, then you are helping a candidate who closer represents your values come to the forefront and maybe in the next election have a greater chance of getting to the office in order to represent you.
Ms. Palmer,
Sure.
Your opponent's contention that the other two parties don't play fair, that they're kind of rigging the system. We've heard about rigging the system in this election to kind of minimize the chance of a third party really having a voice.
It's an interesting question. Let me just say that I think that there isn't, at this point in time, a third party that has grown to the point where it can be viable, particularly on the national level. And we certainly have a mess in presidential politics right now. I think there are a significant number of voters that would welcome a third party, but no third party at this point has the traction to be viable in our election scenario. So I would say, most people might disagree with me, that if you vote for a third party, sorry, Lauren, in this election, you are throwing away your vote because there isn't a viable third party. Would I like to see one? I think so. And I'm a lifelong Democrat, but I don't always agree with the Democrats either, even though I do on most policy issues. So it's going to take time to develop a third party, and it probably will not happen in my lifetime. But I think there's enough discontent with the current system that there may be opportunity. We saw the Bernie Sanders phenomena, and it's still going on to a certain extent. So who knows where that will go in the next 10 years, let's say. But I think we need change. I think we need change in our political landscape. We have more and more disenchanted people with the system the way it is now.
Representative McCarty, the contention that the two major parties sort of kind of rigged the rules to keep them in power. And you've been in the legislature specifically on the public campaign financing. The rules are different for third parties and arguably more difficult for them to get the financing.
Right. Well, that's another entire question, and perhaps that can be looked at going forward. But I'd like to take the opportunity to congratulate my opponent for her work and what she has done with the Green Party. I do tend to agree with my other opponent that at this stage that it is not really a viable choice given the two parties that are the major parties run in the legislature currently, and that a vote to the Green Party is maybe I don't want to say it's throwing away your vote because it gives somebody an opportunity to make a choice, but I don't think it's going to go too far. I would say that the Republicans rigging not on the local level, because we certainly welcome the Green Party on the zoning Board of Appeals, and I think Lauren can vouch for that. There was an open spot, and the Green Party ran for it. So I congratulate the effort to try to educate our citizenry, but I think at this time it's still too premature to say that it's a viable party with a choice. There is, however, another party, the Independent Party, that exists in Connecticut, and so that party, I think, tries to recognize independent thinkers, and I think that's a party that we can look to. Thank you.
And just to clarify, Representative McCarty, I think you've been cross-endorsed by the Independent Party?
Thank you. I have been cross-endorsed by the Independent Party, so giving a shout-out for the Independent Party.
And Sharon Palmer, you're cross-endorsed as well, right? By the Working Families Party.
Right.
Okay.
Happy
Just,
to accept that endorsement.
Okay. Anything else from what you've heard,
Yes,
Lauren?
I have many points to make back to my opponents.
Okay, we'll give you a last shot on this one.
Give me the last shot. So, to the argument that it's not viable because nobody else is going to vote for a third-party candidate is just a circular and self-defeating argument, because if nobody's going to vote for the candidate, why should I vote for them? Because it doesn't make sense. So you should really be looking at candidates who represent your values instead of voting against candidates who don't. There are options that we have been on the Green Party platform that would help limit some of this two-party duopoly, as it really is, as far as ranked choice voting goes, as far as randomized ballot selection, so that you can't just vote down the line. I believe there's a saying, 1A, Democrats all the way, I believe is the saying. And really, the fact that, especially in the presidential season we're seeing now, people are saying, well, I don't like so-and-so, so I'm going to vote for the other candidate, I think is what really got us into this mess of lesser, it's the lesser of two evils. And particularly, I look at it and go, well, you're still voting for evil. And I'd really like to see citizens step up, maybe even if you still believe that you're wasting your vote, but just voting for something instead of against something would be a good change for American politics.
All right, thank you. That brings us to our next question. We'll start with Representative McCarty.